Some people just don't learn the first time, or the second. Destiny had other plans for this op, and he learned the hard way. My fiancé cheated on me with my brother. I dumped her. Now she regrets it because my brother is a womanizer. I am 28, engaged to the woman of my dreams, Susan, whom I met in college. We had an immediate connection because of her kind and extroverted behavior. Our relationship was long distance after dating in college for a few years, and our coming from different cultures made everything pretty hard for us to continue. So, after 2 years of the relationship, we called it quits and went our separate ways. I have a younger brother, whom I'll call Jack. He is a very extroverted person, always partying and going to clubs, unlike me. After becoming a German translator, I rarely met my parents and my brother, except on occasions or at parties due to Jack's extroverted behavior. Susan came into my life again. Jack started working as a bartender in a very famous bar because my dad eventually got tired of him, and he doesn't have a proper degree, so he needed to restart. Jack invited me to the party, which was hosted by him in the club. It was very loud and crowded. I met many college friends, and there she was, sitting on the chair talking to Jack, who was seemingly flirting with her, which made me chuckle. Seeing her after so many years made me realize that I still loved her as much as I did back then. I waved nervously towards her. She walked towards me and hugged me. We talked and filled our cups with each other's life information. Jack walked towards me, and he was surprised to find that we knew each other. After a few conversations, I left the club, and we shared our contacts with each other. Susan and Jack were great friends, which was a good thing and surprising. I wanted to know when Susan and Jack met, but I felt awkward asking her that, so I accepted it and let the good times roll. We started seeing each other and talking for endless hours to make up for the gap. After a few months, I asked her if she wanted to join me for dinner at my parents' house, where I was going to propose to her for marriage. Now asking for a relationship felt stupid, and I should be clear with what I exactly want for both of us. After dinner, I took her to my room and showed her my childhood pictures and everything. We were laughing and giggling. After a minute, I gave her a diary in which I'd written letters for us. She opened it, and there was a ring and a card inside asking her if she wanted to marry me. She looked at me with teary eyes and hugged me tightly, saying yes. It was a heartwarming moment for both of us. My parents already knew her, and they liked her. I asked her if her parents would have any problems, to which she beautifully replied that she was going to insist, and that it was her life, and she wanted to marry me. We decided on a proper engagement party after she got her parents' permission. She asked me to meet her parents so they both could agree to this. We were still sitting and chatting while having ice cream. Jack was scrolling down on his phone, and Susan was looking over him after every conversation, as if she wanted him to join us. She had a bit of ice cream on her lips. As I was about to wipe it off, Jack looked at her and wiped it with his thumb, looking at her seductively. I am a calm man, and here I lost my calmness. Both Susan and Jack laughed, and it was so hard for me to see. She looked at me, apologized, and said, "Don't mind us. We're just really close best friends." Jack interjected by saying that brother would never mind, and he knows how best friends act. I laughed and immediately asked them where they both met. Susan replied and told me that they had met at a party where Jack felt sick after heavy drinking, and Susan came to his rescue. After a week, we both went to meet Susan's mom and dad. Trust me, it wasn't an easy thing to do. Her father was very strict. But after insisting, and with the help of Susan's mother, he finally agreed. Susan and Jack's relationship was indeed like best friends, and after Susan's arrival, I felt him becoming more responsible and understanding. He used to ask me for advice, and Susan did as well. Both Susan and Jack were of the same age, so I thought that's the reason they vibed a lot with each other. Moving to update 1, it's been a month since my last update, as I had pretty bad anxiety and overthinking because of their touchy behavior and extreme closeness. After knowing how Jack acted around her, it made me feel nauseated. All of this escalated the night Susan was staying at my parents' beach house as we organized a beach party, which was supposed to be fun but turned pretty bad. Susan was wearing her bikini, and she looked extremely hot. She had her friends and cousins, and they were all having fun. I went out to arrange the lights, and after coming back, what I saw almost made me throw up. Susan was giving Jack a lap dance. It wasn't a proper lap dance, to be precise, but she was literally all over him, and he was rubbing his hands over her ass. I ran towards them angrily and shouted, "What the hell was going on?" Everybody started looking at me, and she looked scared. Jack kept apologizing and said it wasn't like that. It was just a dare. I grabbed her hand and took her to our room. I punched my hand on the wall and threw each of my thoughts on her face. She said there was nothing between them. She told me that if she was going to be disloyal to me or attracted to my brother, she would have let me know the day I met her. She also said that I was just overanalyzing and Jack was her best friend, and before meeting me, they both used to have a lot of fun, and if that's bothering me, she will keep her boundaries from now on. She also claimed that I've always been an overthinker, and that it's normal to feel insecure sometimes, but I should give her a chance and trust her. That glimpse of them made me sleepless, but they both maintained their distance. Mom was pretty mad at Jack for acting like that and scolding him. He apologized before that, and I forgave him. Finally, the day of the engagement arrived, and everything went pretty well. A few days later, while coming back to my place, I decided to meet Susan after work. As I entered her lane, I saw Jack leaving her house. I went inside and waited for her to speak about Jack's arrival, but she didn't talk about him and instead served dinner, which felt tasteless because I kept thinking about that, and many questions started coming into my head. I couldn't stop but ask Susan about Jack. She replied very casually that, yeah, Jack was not feeling well, so he dropped by to get some meds. I wanted all of my thoughts to go away, as they were making a negative review of Susan in my mind. She seemed suspicious to me by the way she acted. She always kept her phone upside down, and I didn't even know her password. I never saw her doing something on her phone in front of me. She always had her internet off, which was very weird. The next morning, I asked Susan if she wanted to get married next month, and it would be a destination wedding. I wanted to plan it with her, but her reply was dry and uninteresting. She asked me to wait, as she wanted to get promoted in her hospital, so she couldn't avoid taking leaves for any purpose. She used to reply to text and call me all the time, but now her replies are late and she's always irritated, so I gave her the space she needed. Update 2, after her dry text and behavior, she refused to meet me, saying it was her workload. I used to purposefully call Jack and Susan to see if they were together, but they never picked up my call, which made me doubt it further. So I decided to check up on her on the weekend and surprise her with her favorite macarons and flowers. I drove towards her place and knocked on the door, but nobody answered. After knocking 3 or 4 times, I stepped back and suddenly I saw Jack's car on the side of the road. My stomach was heating up with anxiety and I panicked. I didn't know what to do, so I called her, but she didn't pick up my call. I was going to call Jack, but then I decided to stop and go back inside my car. After a while, I finally saw Jack coming out of her house, and my overthinking came true. How can they both meet and not tell me about it? After promising me to maintain her boundaries and respect my feelings, she was meeting him behind my back. I don't know what their relationship was, but meeting someone behind is minor cheating, which leads you to a maniac state of thoughts and insecurity. As soon as Jack left, I got a call from Susan. I asked her if I could come over, and she immediately agreed. I went inside, I sat on the sofa, and she placed her head on my lap, having one of the macarons. I looked at her innocent face and couldn't believe that she could do something like that. Susan was a very religious and high-moral person. After being in each other's arms for a while, I wanted to go to the washroom. After I was done, I was washing my hands, and then I saw something that changed my life, and I almost died of a panic attack. It was a positive pregnancy test, lying next to the dustbin, maybe thrown in a hurry that it never made it inside. As soon as I took it in my shivering hands, it sent shock waves to my body. Susan was banging on the door of the bathroom. I opened the door with the test in my hand and tears in my eyes, and she looked at me in disbelief, fear, and lots of other emotions. I couldn't find any words to express my betrayal. Coming from her, it was expected from Jack, but from her, I asked her in a stammering voice, how could she do this to me? She got on her knees and started begging me, asking me to give her the chance to explain and tell the truth, but I left from there. I went to my parents' house and told them everything. Jack was sitting there, and his face showed no remorse. Mom and Dad kept apologizing, and she kept crying and hugging me, but I didn't hug her back. It was their mistake for ignoring Jack's actions and the screwed-up things he pulled from his past history. He could have been better. I called Susan's parents over to discuss the matter. When everyone gathered, I placed the pregnancy test on the table, and Susan's parents were disgusted by it. Her mother slapped her and asked her what she did wrong in raising her and how she could go against God and her religious beliefs. I broke off my engagement with Susan on that day as she was pregnant with my brother. They decided to get them married. Here's the update 3. Our family decided that Jack would marry Susan with shared guilt and secrets, but the most surprising part was yet to come. Jack was a douchebag. He had a warning attached to him with the reputation of a charming womanizer. Commitment was an alien thing for him, and the whole pregnancy thing was suffocating him. The reason why Susan agreed to the engagement was not that she was in love with me, but to get Jack back, and she pretended all the time with me. She confessed that herself, and now when Jack was asked for commitment, his interest disappeared immediately. I was staying out of this, but I knew everything from Susan's mother. She used to call me and cry to me as Jack was asking Susan to abort the child. In between all this, I was on medications and attended many orientations for mental health, but it wasn't even close to better, so I gave my interview for an abroad job and decided to leave the country for a while. Even though the worst thing I faced, I felt bad and wished her the best for the baby because of the way she manipulated me. She got manipulated by him too. Jack was the biggest player with his charismatic personality, and the love and affection he showed and then suddenly stopped can make anyone go mad. She finally decided to be a single mother, and my family agreed on child support, and even decided to give her a house for both her and the baby. I finally cleared my interview and left the country. I have moved on a lot from my past, and I've also learned a lot, especially to trust my instincts and follow my guts,